It wasn't all bad though. It really wasn't all. There were definitely some pros though. There were definitely some pros though, and there were the things that attracted. There were definitely some pros though. My favorite genre of stories is a struggle story. I love a good come up story, a good old hustle history. Okay, so today I'm gonna tell you one of my struggle stories. I realize I've never done any type of story time on my channel, and I have so many struggle stories. So I want to start a struggle story. How many times can I say struggle story? Struggle story series on my channel where I just share some funny things that I've been through in the hopes of making you laugh and making you feel inspired. And to be honest, I'm still riding the struggle bus most of the time, but we've come a long way. We've really come a long way. So let's just get into today's struggle story. I'm going to tell you guys about the time that I paid $500 for rent in Los Angeles and why it was $500. As I mentioned, I went to USF, the University of South Florida, for a semester, and then I transferred to FIDM in Los Angeles. USF just wasn't for me. I wasn't thriving there. I was barely surviving there, and I was ready to do the next thing. So I applied to FIDM over, I believe it was Thanksgiving break. I got in, came home that winter break. I sold my PT Cruiser because that was my high school car. It was really cool, super popular car, got me really a lot of cool points. Just kidding, I was made fun of a lot because of that car, but I was able to sell it for $2,500 over the break, which was great because my bank account was at $0 and I needed money to move to California so that I could go to FIDM and rack up some student loan debt and all that jazz. FIDM doesn't have student housing or dorms, so what they do is they rent out a bunch of apartments, or maybe they buy them out in, not apartments, but units in different apartments around LA, or you can find roommates through something called the FIDM portal. Now, the FIDM housing option was basically $1,000 per quarter because FIDM was on quarters, not semesters, for half of a bedroom. Or if you found someone who was looking for a roommate, you would pay significantly less. I didn't have time to see any places before because, like I said, I got in the semester or like a couple months before I was going to start. So I wanted to find a roommate before I moved. So I went on the FIDM portal, I emailed a bunch of people, and I got a response from these girls. Also, I forgot to add, there weren't any pictures on the FIDM portal, it was just like descriptions of the place. I was so happy to get a response, so we set up a little Skype meeting. I Skyped with the three of them. They were really nice. I could tell by the Skype that the apartment wasn't the most well kept, but like I said, I was just excited to get back out to LA. I didn't really care, and like I said, I didn't have a lot of time. So we Skyped, everything went well. They sent me the lease agreement, I signed it, I was ready to go. Even though I could tell that the apartment wasn't the nicest, I went to the apartment's official website and I went on those virtual tours of the units and got myself so hyped up. I thought I was really going to be living this hills lifestyle, you know, call me Miss Lauren Conrad, call me Miss Audrina. No, baby girl. I got myself so pumped up, and little did I know that the unit that I was going to be living in, it hadn't been updated since 1905. That was the moment that I messed up, was looking at the units online and thinking that I was going to have my Hills moment. Who did I think I was? So January 1st, 2013, I flew to LA. Okay, I hopped off the plane at LAX with a dream and a dusty cardigan, and my uncle and my cousin picked me up and we went straight to the apartment building. The part that kills me the most about this was they knew I was coming that day and they did not even try to hide what a mess it was. I walked into the apartment and it was just, now listen, 3, now 4 girls were going to be living there. It was basically, you know, our version of a college dorm. It was just wild that they were like, yup, this is it. The carpet was just like super dirty and stained. Cabinets and stuff were kind of broken. And I go into my room and I say that I rented half a room for $500, but I really had a third of the room because there was a space for me to put my bed, but the girl at the time who was renting the room, she had her bed, and then in front of where my bed would have been, or was, there she had a desk that had so many shoes and different things under it and stuff all over the desk. So all I really had was a place to stick a bed, and then on the opposite side I had space for a little dresser, which I still use to this day. My uncle and cousin, I just knew, wanted to drag me the moment we walked into that apartment building. Like, I was just so eager to find a place of my own, not my own, but to find like my own space, that I just rushed the process and I didn't care. And even looking at the place, and like even now, it wasn't the worst thing. I had a roof over my head. It was super close to school. It wasn't terrible. It was just really, really dirty. And as much as I would clean my space and the kitchen and stuff, it just was like the type of dirt that dirt didn't pay rent, but it was there to stay. So that day we went straight to IKEA. I found the cheapest bed I could find. I was essentially sleeping on a yoga mat propped up by 4 toothpicks for the first 2 years that I lived in LA. And you know what? I wasn't even mad about it. I wasn't even mad about it. We put it together that day. I was just like, okay, this is what it is. I'm paying $500 for this, and I know exactly why this rent was $500. Also, I know that they had been living in that unit for at least 3 years before I had moved in. So it had just been lived in, really lived in, just truly lived in. There were definitely some pros to the apartment. It was right across the street from the school. I didn't have a car, obviously, because I sold it before I got there. So I could walk right across the school. I could come home on like lunch breaks or any like breaks in between class. It was near a really big metro hub downtown. So I could get in and out of downtown really quickly, really easily. And I got a job working downtown and a quick internship working downtown, so I could walk to everything. I was really close to everything I needed to be close to. Obviously the cons were the apartment was not well kept. I'm not a super high maintenance person, but I do like things to be clean, and it was just frustrating that like no matter how much I cleaned, it would always just be messy again. The other cons of the place were I obviously didn't have any privacy because I was renting half a room. So I couldn't host friends or family or anything. Not that I was throwing big dinner parties or needed to be having a bunch of people over, but I just remember I never really wanted anyone to come over. One, because it was just gross, and two, because there were always people around. Because the apartment was just so damaged, there was no deposit being returned at all. I actually had to go and pay money because they owed for the damage for the apartment, and I was the only one that was still looking for another place. And I remember for my next apartment, I couldn't even be put on the lease because of that. If you leave here with any advice from my story, if you're planning to move into a new place and you haven't seen the place in person yet, I would highly, highly suggest getting as many pictures as you can of the place so you make sure you're not walking into a situation that could potentially like damage your, I don't know if renter's history is even a thing, but it definitely messed me up because the place was so damaged. So if you're going to actually be on the lease, I'm not talking about subletting, if you're actually going to be on the lease, have them send you as many pictures as possible. I don't think, like I said, I was so excited to move out to LA. I don't think I really asked. I know they sent me some pictures, and like I said, I could tell, but I was just grateful to have a place, and I'm still grateful that I had that place. I would do that over a million times. because being in that place was part of my path and led me to where I am now. It taught me the importance of keeping my space well kept and maintained. I value my personal space so much now. It wasn't glamorous, but look at where we are now. We've got backdrops and hardwood floors, big pimpin'. Not really, we're still in the come up. I still have my broke moments. I'm very, very cheap. My card's full and my battery's about to die, which means I should probably stop talking. I wanna know, do you have a struggle story about your first apartment? Are you currently living in your first apartment? Is it a struggle? Are you living in my first apartment? If so, good luck. I wanna hear your funny first apartment stories too. Thank you, fam, for tuning in. Have a wonderful Friday, and as always, thank you for being here.